Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's interview, I sit down with sophomore attacker on the Loyola women's lacrosse team, Lauren Lam. On Saturday, Loyola will be heading down to Florida to square off against the Gators, which is one of our games of the week. Lauren, who transferred from Hofstra, has played in 3 games for Loyola so far. She recently played for the Chinese U20 National Team for the U20 World Lacrosse Championships in Hong Kong this past summer. We're so excited to have Lauren on the podcast today. So thank you so much, Lauren, for taking time out of your busy schedule and coming on. And how is everything going?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. So far so good. We're in spring break right now, so yeah, got busy really digging into the athlete part of student athlete this week, which is really exciting. Just getting practices, being with the girls a lot. Yeah, really exciting. So far, season's been going good, so excited for games coming up.
Yeah, and obviously you have a nice trip to Florida on Saturday, which I know a lot of people go to Florida for spring break, but for you it's a business trip, but that's still got to be fun nonetheless.
Definitely. Yeah, we're excited for the warmth. We've been getting a little warmer here in Maryland, which is great, but yeah, excited for that sun and being able to play in that different type of weather. So,
Now your team is off to a great start with a 3-2 record, including a win against 11th ranked John Hopkins. What have you taken away from your team's performance so far this season?
I think a big thing we've really focused on, especially in our locker room, is kind of working and controlling the controllables. We call it TNT, things that take no talent. So these are like we've been working so hard and we've all been competing and playing and practicing so hard against ourselves since before we got here, while we're here. So just the things that are really just kind of narrowing it down to the basics of energy, always making sure we're hustling for the ball, and make sure we're bringing up competitive energy, just like the little things that really are going to set us apart from other teams. And I think each game we've seen kind of a little bit more about what our team is going to be this season. Still a lot more of games and improvement and just areas where we're really seeing parts of greatness. So really excited. Each game's getting kind of building up the pieces of what our team's going to be this season. So yeah, just digging into that a little bit more.
Yeah, and what's it been like being a new player on the team? Obviously, it's got to be a little different from last year being a freshman on a new team, but how have you built chemistry with your new teammates this season?
Definitely coming in as a transfer, it has its challenges, but I think this team, like from the first day, even before I stepped on campus, the culture of the team and the family and even the coaches, like when we were on our recruiting call, just that sense of family. I got a lot of texts from the girls reaching out before I'd stepped on campus, being like, "We're so excited to have you. Can't wait for you to be a part of what's so special here." So I think just that like culture already, I just felt like I was so welcome. Like before I even got here, before people got to know me, before I knew anyone else. And then since I've been here, like our from the locker room to practices to off like during our team events, it's just I think we really bond a lot outside of just the lacrosse aspect that obviously is so important. But yeah, just being able to enjoy being with each other and still bringing that competitive edge on the field, I think is what has been really special and awesome to kind of be welcomed into and then just kind of embracing it all. So yeah, it's been great so far. Transfer's definitely been exciting and almost kind of feels like being a freshman again. You're kind of experiencing things for the first time, but in a different place. So it's been great. Yeah. Crazy. I'm a sophomore already. It's
I
wild.
know, I know. Sooner or later, you're going to be a senior, which is going to feel like the
Uh,
time's flying
I
by.
know that's what's scary. So definitely trying to take things day by day, but it's been great so far. It's awesome.
Now, what would you say has been like the biggest improvement you've made to your game this season?
I was actually just talking about with one of my teammates, but being more vocal. I think that a lot of times I'm an attacker and I think a lot of times people say defense, like you guys have to talk to each other to be on the same page. But I think especially this season, I'm really, really working on being vocal, whether that's calling for the one more pass or being that outlet, or if I'm open, calling for it. I think just working on not just having my legs and my body move, but having my voice be a presence on the field. So still working on that definitely every practice. It's a little bit more out of my comfort zone. But yeah, just being vocal, I think because everything that we're practicing, dodging, shooting, like finishing, cutting, I think I've always kind of worked on those things. So just bringing that like vocal aspect is definitely something that's taken a lot more practice than I thought, but definitely seeing some improvements in that part.
Now, what are your thoughts heading into Saturday's game against Florida? I know you have another game against Georgetown coming up before that one, but talk about how important these non-conference games are for your team as you head into conference play starting this month.
Yeah, I think it's always great to be able to play outside your conference. Obviously, Florida's a great team. I think it's gonna be a great, super competitive game. But definitely taking care of our Wednesday game first, taking it game by game. But I think it's just like obviously it'll be a out of conference. We aren't going to see them in Patriot League conference games, but I think it's always great to be able to see um, outside competition other than what we normally play in our conference games. So I would say just like digging deeper, Georgetown, we're going to find out what a little bit more about our team, a little bit find those little sparks, I guess, a little bit more and dig into those, and then carry that onto Florida and then take care of things from there. But yeah, I think it traveling, um, I think just kind of focusing on again just the little things that we have been working on and then putting it to action while we're playing against them.
Yeah, and obviously you've played only non-conference games so far this season, but one I want to sort of ask you about, just sort of a follow-up, is about the John Hopkins win. What did that win sort of mean to your team? I feel like it kind of proved that you guys can compete with some of those other big conferences, which I think is an important thing heading
Yeah.
into Patriot League play, because I feel like sometimes I know I don't do this and other people don't do this, but maybe there's like a perception where people might overlook your team a little bit because of, you play in a smaller conference. So I'm just curious like how important that win was for your program and for the team this season.
Definitely. I mean, we're on the same street as Hopkins, so we call it the Battle of Charles Street, which is a great, awesome tradition that I kind of learned about when I first got here, and I learned about how big of a game is both on the men's side and our women's side. But it's obviously like a big kind of rivalry, big town rivalry type of thing that I think it brings such a cool energy because you really are right down the street from each other. But it's like great. The energy, I mean, every game day is awesome, but this game especially, like it's really two great teams and we're competing. A lot of us, like some kid, we know a lot. I have a good amount of friends on the team. So kind of like being able to see just like how we compete, how we are going to fight and everything, like everything leading up to the game is really just, okay, who's going to want it more? Who's going to really, at the end of the day, take the game. So yeah, it's definitely awesome that we get to see them so early in the season. But yeah, always pushing to be the winner at the end of it and kind of yeah, it being a such a close game was really exciting. So
Yeah, for sure. That road trip must be really tough going down the street to play them.
so far. Yeah, it's great. It feels almost like a home game, even if we go away or stay on campus. So it's great.
So let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your career and sort of work all the way up to where you are now. So you're from California, Dana Point specifically. So what's it like growing up there? How'd you start playing lacrosse? I feel like California is not really known as a lacrosse hub, but I feel like also it kind of should be because there's so many people that live there. So I'm just curious what it's the lacrosse scene's like out where you're from.
Definitely. I think so. I started when I was 10 years old. I'm 19 now. So it's been a good 9 years. Just to see the growth of lacrosse over in the West Coast, specifically in California, has been awesome. Like I grew up, there weren't girl leagues around me. So I actually started playing boys lacrosse in a box with I have an older brother who's a year older than me. He was kind of approached. He's always been super athletic, played basketball, football growing up. And so we saw a sign that was like men's lacrosse, try it out. He tried it out. I would go and watch his games when I was younger on weekends, go to his practices. And I just remember wondering, I was like, right now, at that time, I was in gymnastics and dance, and that's pretty big in our area, especially at my age. in that area. Yeah, it's like pretty, a lot of the girls, I had a lot of friends in it. And I remember going to my brother's games and being like, this is awesome. Like they get to hit each other. And like my brother would always come off and be super excited to go to the next game, to the next practice. And I just remember that energy. And I was like, well, can I play? Like, are there any girls teams? And at that time I was too young for any of the leagues around. And at that time there was only one kind of in the area that people knew about. So they're like, yeah, why don't you jump in? There's a coach and one of my biggest mentors now, Glenn Miles. He was played basketball and lacrosse at the Naval Academy. He was a fighter pilot, is in the Hall of Fame there now, and he's just an awesome, awesome guy. I really think he grew the sport over in the West Coast. And then his female counterpart, Holly Riley, she played at Princeton, went to play the USA team, and she's just been awesome in just being that like mentor, being that person that girls could look up and be like, whoa, she played lacrosse at a high level. She's still doing it. She loves it. This is something she's passionate about. And I could see myself doing that too. So just the pair of them two, I think I attribute a lot of my lacrosse growth and just finding out about it from them. And then played boys lacrosse, met Coach Holly Riley, and she was like, well, you're a little bit young to play in our league. It's a U15, U13 league. At that time, I was 10. But she was like, well, we could use a defender. So I was like, of course, like I would love to try it out. Started as a defender. And I remember some of the games, I didn't really know the restraining line rules. So I would get the ball from defense and I'd run all the way across the field and like want to shoot. And I would shoot, and my coach, she's like, you can't go over the line, like you're a defender. So then transitioned to midfield. And then eventually I figured I think I enjoyed scoring so much that I was like, okay, like learned a little bit more about the game, got a little bit more serious, started playing club, and then traveling more for it, and then transitioned fully to offense. So that like I think the growth of it all, I'm really, really thankful for people like Glenn Miles, Holly Riley that I mean, they're East Coast born and raised, played at such high levels, and the fact that they brought it over to the West Coast, and then even to this, even to this day, still continuing to grow it. I think it's great, and that's kind of what I hope people are seeing. And I think the memo's getting over to the West Coast a lot more. You've got a lot more D1 programs out there, club teams that are traveling over to the East Coast to get kind of a taste of it. So it's great. I mean, I wish I kind of had more of that when I was younger, but yeah, I think it's been growing, which is awesome to see.
Now, did you have like a favorite player or team that you liked to watch growing up, or was it more of just a sport that you played, not really watched?
At that time, I mean, now I'm so glad there's the women's league, women's lacrosse league, and before that, AU, that people were kind of really starting to watch and have those be what's streamed on TV and what you're seeing. Back then, I honestly watched a lot more of basketball. I played when I was younger, and a big kind of figure person I always watch was Kobe Bryant. And I think even off the field, I'd watch like his interviews and stuff. And I think it kind of helped me mentally. Obviously, everyone knows he was like a great, great player, awesome on the field, just like a absolute like beast, very just so dominant. But I think it was a lot of the mental stuff that he was first one in the gym and the last one to leave. He would be taking hundreds of shots every day, always trying to outwork and be that player that without a doubt was putting in the most work. And obviously it showed. So I think growing up saw him a lot as kind of that mentor. And then Sammy Joe Tracy. I remember her and I are still like we reach out occasionally, but she I think was one of the few and one of the first athletes that were playing at such a high level where I was like, she I mean, we talked and we had joked about it too, like us smaller girls got to stick together. Like she's not this like towering huge player, but she plays so big and she has a presence and she is so dominant on the field, and being able to use that to your advantage. I think I learned a lot from her in the high school level. I was taking draws As most players in the West Coast, if you play travel, usually you end up being on the midfield circle, taking the draw, playing both ends of the field. And I remember doing kind of like a clinic with her, and she was like, "You got to use your body and your height to an advantage and stop seeing it as a disadvantage." So once I started getting more competitive and women's lacrosse started to kind of grow, I think my mentor ended up being Sammy Jo Tracy, and she's killing it in the women's league and AU Pro and just all that stuff. It's great, and she's still growing lacrosse as a mentor and a coach, so it's great. Like, yeah, it's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm also a big Kobe Bryant fan. I have his Mamba Mentality book. I know I'm not sure if you've ever read it, but there's so many great stories from it. And one of the I like is how like obviously basketball players I think are known to like party sometimes, like when they travel to the city. So I remember
Yeah,
there was like one story where he says like I'll go party with you guys, but after we're gonna do what I want to do, or and they're like okay. So they go out and then like they go back to the hotel or whatever, and then like an hour goes by, it's like 4 a.m. He like bangs on their door. It's like get up,
yeah.
like we have to go train.
Workout. Oh my gosh.
And it's just like crazy, like seeing like what he did. And I
Yeah,
forgot the rest of the story. I don't really remember it from the top of my head, but it just shows you the sort of winning mentality that he had that made
yeah,
him successful. So I really like that book a lot. And I'm a big UConn women's basketball fan, and I think his daughter was like really wanting to go there.
yeah,
And it was just like it was really cool to see like how he like raised her too, and like to be a great basketball player as well. So really miss Kobe. And I feel like I just like to watch his interviews sometimes to see for like just sort of like inspiration and stuff like that.
yeah. And it's, I mean, the stuff that he's talking about, he's one of the I mean, people are like he should have been a motivational speaker, but just the way he lived his life, I think, was a motivation in itself. Like he's saying things that he really believes it and he lives that. And obviously people can say all that they want and like talk. A lot of people are like talk is cheap, but he like did that. Like that was his lifestyle. And I think it's so awesome, especially we're playing at such a high level where we really are like we dedicate a lot of time and effort and like mental energy towards it. And so just to see someone take it to just to the next level is something I think a lot of people strive to be. And I think if I could just be a piece of that, I think would
Yeah.
be great. Yeah.
Now, your pre-college lacrosse days, you played for St. Margaret's for your high school, and then you played for a club lacrosse team, which one of the cooler names I've heard from a club lacrosse team, Mad Dogs Girl Lacrosse. What
Yeah.
was your experience like, both from a high school and club lacrosse perspective? How did it help prepare you for college? And I guess like, do you have like any sort of memories that stick out to you when you think about your, I guess, pre-Hofstra days?
Yeah, so the high school I went to, um, lacrosse was still growing, so usually on our team, we had a lot of soccer players, a lot of basketball players, players that lacrosse wasn't their main sport, which I think really helped me be able to, I guess, kind of build that hunger because I wanted our team to be competitive. Obviously, would play club and yeah, playing for Mad Dog, being on the travel team, the national team, like we were competing at really high levels. And so I think I wanted there to kind of not be an off season. I didn't want it to be, okay, I'm playing club at this level, and then high school, we were just kind of like I guess not just like it wasn't at the same competitive level. So I think at the high school level, my like one of my biggest memories was being able to convince some of my friends to just try out lacrosse. One was a track and field cross country friend, another one was her main sport was soccer, and then another was basketball. And I think just being able to build that hunger and bring that to our team and kind of see like the mirror what the similarities between all the sports were. I think that was like just being able to see that growth, I think, in a sport that just wasn't really that big. A lot of people had never seen a lacrosse stick before, or they'd never watched it, like they didn't know what it was about, didn't know the rules. I think high school, from my freshman to my senior year, I think there was a lot more growth in that competitiveness, and our team was generally our boys team was pretty good. They were winning conference championships. And then our women's, We won the year before I got there, and then my freshman year was a bit of a growing year. We lost some of the seniors, juniors, that were a little bit more like experienced in lacrosse, and so that kind of I think was able to kind of grow my captain or that like kind of that leadership role of bring girls in at practices, keeping it competitive, and then just but still encouraging girls who had never played the sport to keep up that energy. So I think my biggest, I guess, memory that I remember, we had two games back to back that were like these teams were had won conference championships before. They were on a winning streak. They were blowing teams out of the water, and we had them back to back on like a Tuesday and then a Saturday. So very similar kind of to college. We were playing a lot more games during the weeks, and these are big games, and we were earlier in our season. We ended up winning in overtime both those games back to back, and I think that was really it was my senior year, and I just remember feeling that like energy, like we're so young, we're early in our season, but the girls, the energy that we've been working on since my freshman year, and building that program, just to kind of see it really bloom, I guess, was awesome. So yeah, those two games, I think, rushing the field after, yeah, those are great, and sometimes I watch back on those, just to kind of bring back some of the memories. But yeah, it's exciting. My club team, we there's a big tournament out in the West called Sandstorm. It's in Palm Springs, where Coachella and Stagecoach are hosted on those beautiful polo fields. It's a huge tournament. It's a 3-day tournament. And my Mad Dog team, that was our last um, tournament after playing with each other for the past 4 or 5 years, maybe even six. And it was our last tournament, and every year we had always come close. We'd gotten to the semifinals, gotten to the final game, and then lost by one or two to our rivals from Oregon. And this year we were like, this is our last tournament. We are gonna win this. Like, we're gonna take this home finally. And then our last tournament, we won the whole thing. And it was just like this exciting, our program had not won it before. And it was just like a big moment. We were with our best friends, and all of us, I mean, not all of us, but a majority of us were committed to play at the next level. So I think it was just a really great way to end club that we've all just been playing together and at that level for so long. So yeah, it's
Now, after that, you went to Hofstra. What was your experience like there? What made you, I guess, want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at? And just talk about your 1 year there and what you took away from that whole experience, both on and off the field.
yeah, I committed to Hofstra, and I honestly I had an awesome experience there. I loved my teammates, I loved my coaches. The school was great, and I think I had always been set throughout my recruiting process when I knew I wanted to play at the next level, which I think it pushed me even more to be like, why is lacrosse not bigger in the West Coast at that time? But I was like, I am gonna feel like I made it, and then like that will be my like I made it moment if I go to school and play and compete in the East Coast. So my entire like recruiting process was all East Coast schools. I knew I wanted to be out here, compete out here. Even though it was farther from home, my parents have always been super supportive of me. So always looked on the East Coast. I think I knew I wanted to be at a competitive school. Academics is always really important to me. And I think growing up, you kind of have that balance, but you don't really feel it until you're sitting in your college class and you've got practice after, practice before, and kind of that balance. So I think I had a great, like, awesome time there, and really, I think I just kind of followed my heart and kind of super grateful that it took me to Hofstra, had a great experience there, and then my journey took me here to Loyola, where I'm having a blast. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
kind
made you want to
of a
like enter? Oh
different
yeah,
path, but yeah.
yeah. I'm just curious, like, what made you want to enter the transfer portal after last year, and how'd you end up at Loyola? How did that whole thing sort of end up working out for you?
Yeah, I think I am a very like if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and whatever happens is that's like the plan. So I think it was obviously a really tough decision. It's never easy to leave something that where you've built such good connections and had a good experience, and kind of the transfer portal's scary. It's a big thing of unknown. Like it's like the whole recruiting process all over again, except you've had a year under your belt and you've kind of experience what you really, really liked and what you would have wanted like separately, or what worked, what didn't work. And so I think that whole decision, again, like my parents super supportive. So a lot of it was kind of whatever I was experiencing and whatever like I think I felt in like throughout my whole experience. Really, really grateful for it all. But I think entering the portal, scary thing, tough decision. But I really do think like when things worked out and I got the call from Loyola, I was like, this is like it felt right. And I think it's cliche when people are like, when you know, you know. But it like really it was awesome. Got on a call with my parents and family, and everyone just kind of felt like this is great. And it's so far, I mean, time has flown, but I love it, and the girls here are awesome. Still keep in contact with a lot of my girls from Hofstra, which is, I mean, that's always kind of like a bittersweet moment, but it's been great, and just really glad I kind of followed what I was feeling, and then I've had such a good support system of friends and family that have kind of been with me through it all. So yeah.
Now, one thing I want to talk to you about as well is you also got to participate in the U20 World Championships for Team China. I'm just
Yeah.
curious, how does that selection process work, and what was it like being a part of that tournament?
Yeah, so that's like I think something that's honestly been one of the coolest parts about playing the sport that I play, and having the opportunity. So the whole like selection process, it's tough. There's a whole eligibility aspect of it. Which that part I think is the most complex. So in order to either be eligible, you have to be born in the country or a citizen in that country, or meaning like a passport holder, or you could have a parent that was born there or a grandparent. So in my case, it's my grandparent that was born in mainland China. From that, though, which is a bummer for me, is that like I'm kind of the first in my family because me and my brother, the only um, kids in my immediate family that play sports at this level, and let alone it being lacrosse. So I'm kind of the first to be able to do this, and then the last because I'm the last part of eligibility is a grandparent. So selection process. There was some tryouts and training camps, which are about like a week long, where our organization brings together all these players that they're interested in. They play at different levels. Some live in mainland China, some North American, others that are born and raised and are international students in the States, but are born and raised in mainland China. And then from there, like each event, our staff and our directors will hand select the roster that they want based on position, numbers, and then from that point, like we will have a training camp a week before the actual event, and then get to know each other. And it's honestly like the best thing ever. Like I get to travel with people that I mean, like that look like me, that have maybe a similar story, and also compete at such a high level. And I actually met my coaches, Jen and Dana, at in Hong Kong for the first time in person after I committed, as well as three of my teammates, Lauren Spence, Kennedy, and then Mim, all in at this tournament for the first time. And we were all from different places playing for our own country. And I think it's such a special opportunity. And I was able to play in Australia this past winter, in the Australian or the Asia Pacific Championship qualifiers. So it's just like it's been great, and it's such a great experience, and kind of seeing the game grow on such a global level and internationally is, I mean, it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, it sounded like a fun tournament. I feel like what at least from the other players I talked to that were playing in that tournament, they said the best part was sort of meeting other people from different countries and sort of learning about their lacrosse stories. And I guess there was a lot of like jersey exchanges that happened. Like I talked to
Yes.
one girl from Canada who said she has like a cool New Zealand jersey and all these other ones. So like,
Yeah.
did you get to collect any cool jerseys? Like, do you have Mims like Australia jersey, I assume, or something like that?
I don't have Mims. I have New Zealand. I have a jersey from New Zealand. I have a Jamaican jersey, a Puerto Rico pair of shorts, a Canada jersey or
The
like
Canadian
Canada
jersey was my
warm
favorite, the
up.
red one.
It's so cool. And we call it gear swap. And it was something I didn't know it existed. And we got there and the girls were like, okay, anything extra? Like people go up to you at like the games and they're like, hey, do you have something to swap? And I think it's great. Like we're all, obviously it's very competitive and we all want to get the title and put our country in like a new, like a higher spot than we were before and kind of rank differently. But all in all, like we're all just it's you just see so many different people from different places and we're all brought together because we love lacrosse and we kind of want to see it grow in our country and then like even more. So I think it's also connected me more with my Chinese culture than before. I mean, I don't speak Chinese within my family. And I mean, I have been able to communicate and understand and pick up Chinese, which is, I mean, it's like it's hard. It's a hard language, but the girls are awesome. And majority of our team is lives in mainland China. They go to school there. They are playing lacrosse there, and just to see kind of our world's mix has been awesome. Like culture and the food and the people and families. So yeah, it's an awesome experience that I don't think it's just so unmatched. I wish everyone could get a taste of it, but.
Yeah. What was it like being in Hong Kong? And like, do you have like a favorite memory, like just in the tournament overall? Because I would say the stadium was pretty cool, how it was like right in the middle of the city. Like, I feel like you don't see that here in the States.
No, yeah, we were right in the heart of Hong Kong. Like you're taking the tram to and from the game if you want to. We were exploring at night if we weren't practicing. And I think it's you're like planted in just a culture that's it could be so similar but so different to what we're used to. And just kind of embracing that. I think it was so awesome. You're trying new foods, you're talking to different people, and you're kind of in this busy city where you're like, what's going on half the time? But you kind of embrace it because you're like, when else am I going to come here and get to be with friends and play lacrosse and have like, I mean, the weather was pretty humid, but it was like everyone was in it. So I think it was um we got to travel up to I think it's called Top of the World. I don't know if they call it something differently there, but it's you're literally you take a tram up to the top and you it's like this huge lookout point and you could see all of Hong Kong. Me and my team were able to go on an off day and you just like feel like you're on top of the world and you're like this life couldn't get any better. We just won a game earlier today, and now we're dressing up all cute and being able to explore this completely new country and culture than ever. So, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, the humidity was no joke, I was told, especially from the
No.
English players who aren't used to that type of climate. They said it was pretty
Yeah.
crazy. So I'm not a
Yeah.
big fan of the humidity, so I don't know how I would deal with that personally.
All our skin looked good though, because coming, especially me coming from California, it's a little bit more dry. So
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, definitely an adjustment, but it was such a yeah, such a different and neat experience that I think was some would say life changing, but I think it was just yeah, it was awesome.
Well, I don't know if you've ever had the experience where it's so humid, like your shirt starts sticking to you. Like that's just like it just feels uncomfortable. So it's something I gotta learn because I feel like it's
Yeah,
starting to become more humid every year as the years go on.
definitely. Yeah.
So let's transition now to the non-lacrosse segment where we talk about non-lacrosse things and learn about you more off the field. So one fun fact I learned about yourself is that you're an Eagle Scout. What do you have to do to become an Eagle Scout? And I guess what made you want to join the Boy Scouts? Because I was reading that you were one of the first female Eagle Scouts in like your area, which I thought was pretty cool. So I had to ask you about that.
Yeah, that I think has been kind of one of the cool parts I that I have been all so grateful to be a part of. I had heard about my brother had been in Boy Scouts. And it was really, I mean, to a certain age, they start in Cub Scouts, and a lot of it is family oriented. So we were going on a lot of family campings, camp outings, family hikes, and a lot of it is geared towards kind of, I guess, growing into and building just kind of the next generation and kind of having the family support. But sadly, that reached an end when my brother joined Boy Scouts, where it was a lot more independent. Like now they're growing these boys into men. And so that was kind of one of their mottos. So it was less family campouts. And my brother was going on now all these awesome like whitewater rafting and rock climbing, and I was like, well, what about me? Like, and you're at the age where girls, like siblings, weren't really welcome. It was kind of more of my brother's independent journey. So I had kind of wanted to keep doing those like high adventure things and just seemed like he was having so much fun. And then I had gotten a notification that they were working on having bringing girls and kind of opening up that sector for females to be a part of the Scouts in that sense, separate from Girl Scouts and your traditional kind of the Girl Scouts and their kind of mission. And so right then I was like, I need to hop on this. That would be awesome. And then I got that opportunity in 2020, February 2020, and I think that was honestly probably one of the best things I could have ever done. And even to this day, I'm still very involved in that community, in that the whole scouting world. And I think what I learned the most was kind of that, um, I wouldn't say independence, but outside of being in, I feel like such the bubble that we all are kind of a part of, especially where I was from and the sport that I played, and the family that I always felt like I had right next door or right like a room away. I kind of learned a little bit more about myself, kind of in a place you're like sometimes you're out in the wilderness and really like things could go really, really south if you're not like on top of it. And I think it was kind of stepping out of that comfort zone and kind of seeing how I could fend for myself and be on my own in that sense. And then obviously loved all the high adventure stuff. And then the service part, we dedicate a lot of hours, whether it's volunteering at a shelter or Thanksgiving, working with family assisted ministries and kind of being the family that a lot of people don't have and kind of being that like support that we are so lucky to have, but a lot of people don't have. I think being able to kind of be a part of helping out people who are less fortunate, I think was one of the coolest things, and being able to be outdoors and active and being in the community and just experiencing it all. And then the people and the mentors I met through scouts and that whole world still involved and keep in touch with a lot of those people. So definitely a big outside of all of that to get to the Eagle Scout rank. It's a lot of work, but to me, I didn't really feel like it. Like I think it was a lot more of just um, like I guess a lot more mental energy and kind of digging into that part of me that I had not before being in sports and being in the classroom. So I think that was kind of what opened my eyes a little bit more, being kind of reaching into that part of me. But first you're at a scout, and then there's every rank that you go up, there's certain requirements that you have to fulfill. And then at each end, there's you've got requirements to fill, and then you have kind of like an evaluation with like your board or the group leaders in your troop at that point. And then up in the higher the Scouts of America Association and the higher ups, if you will. And then you kind of in like this interview, and they want to see what you've learned at each rank and like how has that affected you as a person, and how are you bringing that into your daily life and living by like the scout motto, which is just all like how to just be a good person and be that type of person that you want others to look at you and be like, wow, that's a great person with a good head on their shoulders and just yeah, just I think being like a good human being. And then at the Eagle rank, when you're going from life to Eagle, I think is the most grueling part, and especially being a part of the first group of inaugural female Eagle Scouts in like the nation, there was a certain deadline that we had to hit. You have to complete everything by a certain date. And I think that's where I was like, whoa, this is real because as much as I'm enjoying this, like there's a deadline. I'd like, if I want to be a part of this, I gotta put in all that work to do it. And there's an Eagle Scout project that you're taking months. It's fundraising, you're planning, you're scheduling work days, you're brainstorming what your project's going to be, who's it going to help, who do you want involved, how are you going to make it all happen, and then meanwhile writing the report and your statement and everything that you're going to take then to the board of directors and board to basically sit and they like it's your Eagle Scout board and they interview on like okay that like how did you make that like budget work and how did you schedule that and time all that. And then the hardest part was that was in the middle of COVID. So a lot of people were scared to help out because it was like, we're going to be around each other. Are we going to have to wear masks? Um, a lot of kids were trying to do school and I was doing school and not really having that sense of like what's going on and how are we going to still do this without all the freedoms that we had before. And then all of that like ended up just like adding to the experience and I think it made it so much more special when I finally my Eagle Scout rank and had my Eagle Scout ceremony and now I'm forever in the National Eagle Scout Association. So it's great and I think it all started with just having an opportunity for females to be a part of I think an organization that has been around for so long, but that males and boys were only kind of able to experience. So it's great. Now it's no longer Boy Scouts of America, it's Scouts of America, and now it's an experience that a lot of people can kind of have, which I think is really special. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah.
What's like your favorite badge that you've earned? Because I know I don't know any of them, but like you
Yeah.
still have like the uniform with all the stuff on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I got, I think my biggest one, which kind of actually led me into my major now and what kind of, honestly, kind of what my future I think wanted to look like was my personal finance marriage badge. And that one, you are learning how to finance your own life, but then also like I don't know, like you're budgeting, okay, how much do I spend a week and keeping track of that and logging that, okay, how much do I have this week compared to last week? And I think just being a little bit more conscious about your daily spending and then like how that's going to impact the decisions you make throughout the week, like throughout the month. That kind of ended up, I have a minor in or I'm studying for my minor in finance, and hoping to be in that financial industry. So I think that kind of would be kind of my favorite merit badge. That was more future. But then the main one that I loved was I would say I between my rock climbing and my kayaking merit badge.
Oh,
Or
that's
maybe
cool.
my sailing. I like learned how to sail and as scary as it was, I think I that was like the coolest thing because when else are you going to be with like certified people that you trust to teach you how to sail if you're not like able to on your own type thing. So yeah, I think that was probably one of the why I love the water. So one of the water sport ones, but yeah,
That's
probably
awesome.
kayaking or um yeah, sailing.
I went kayaking once and it was a lot of fun. I feel like I should do it again.
You should
Yeah,
definitely.
I just feel like it's hard to find like an area where you can do it, especially in certain parts of the country. But definitely gotta keep trying to find stuff because that was a lot of fun. Now,
Definitely.
another thing that someone told me, and I have to ask you this because it was kind of crazy to learn about, is it true that you completed the LA Marathon at the age of 9 years old? If so, talk about that experience because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I completed the LA Marathon at age 9 and my family my dad is I mean, I didn't realize how awesome he was until after I had completed the 26.2 miles. My dad has run a couple marathons in his life, and I don't know, like I think our family. some of my older cousins who my dad had run marathons with some of his brothers. He's a family. There's six boys and one girl. The girl's the oldest. So they did a lot of sports together. And so my dad had run a marathon, some triathlons with his brothers and his friends. And so they were like, we're gonna run the LA Marathon. And my dad's like, okay, like awesome. And usually you're supposed to train for these things. And our family was like, okay, like you guys gonna train? And this was like we had decided a month before. And my dad's like, well, I guess we're gonna do it. And I was at the age where, like, when you're 9 years old, you're not processing what 26.2 miles is. And I think that's what got me through it. Like mentally, I remember my dad was like, okay, just one more, like just one more. And I remember looking, I mean, the route is so awesome. You're running through literally the like downtown Los Angeles. And I think like we were running past a store and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get to that pool. I'm gonna get to that pool. And I remember like my body just feeling there's just so much energy because there's music playing and you've got like so many people like wanting to hand you like coconut water and like running gels. And I'm like, whoa, this is great. And then it hits you and you're like, whoa, how much longer am I running? Because I feel like I've been running for a really long time. And I think like all of that, my dad brings it up too, and he's like, you're underplaying that you completed a marathon. And I was like, well, at that point, I don't think I knew I was completing it. And I think it would be my goal, I think once I graduate college would be to actually train for half marathon and then a marathon because I think that would be full circle. And it's such like a feat and you're mentally and physically just have to be so in it. And I think just the energy and the experience all together, I would love to do one and remember everything about it and be just so in the moment. But yeah, I think shout out to my parents for just throwing us in there and seeing how we do. And yeah, like it was such an awesome experience. And I hope to kind of experience it again one day where I am more ready
Mm.
for it than I was.
Do you remember what your time was or no?
I think it was like 7 hours,
That's still
seven.
really to complete a marathon, especially as a 9-year-old, that's really impressive. Because I was
Yeah,
just
I
thinking
mean,
this to myself, you're 19, you're a
yeah.
D1 women's lacrosse player, you're an Eagle Scout, you've already have a marathon under your belt. Like what else do you need to accomplish, I guess, like after now?
So I think it's like honestly been so awesome. I think I sometimes I forget like I've been so fortunate to be able to experience these things. And while it feels um like I'm 19 and once I hit 20, I'm like, whoa, like I'm an adult, like I'm in the real world. I think college has been so cool because it really brings into perspective like different experiences that other people have that I've never had. And how like sometimes I'll meet someone and I'm like, whoa, like you did that. Like that's awesome. And then we kind of you bounce back and forth and you just learn so many different things because we're all from such different places. But we're like brought together and it's awesome to get to know people and kind of share experiences and find out what's similar and what's like different and kind of make different goals for myself that yeah, I think it's been cool. I think life is awesome in that way, but it's so real that you're like, whoa, these things people are doing these things and it's they're really, really, really living life. So yeah, it's cool.
Let's move on to the other non-lacrosse questions. So I guess we'll ask you about some of your teammates. Who has the best style on the Loyola women's lacrosse team? Besides yourself,
Style.
obviously.
Style. It's a good question. I would say, hmm, we see each other in a lot of lacrosse stuff. Um, I would say Chase Boyle. Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
she's got that. She's got that down, actually. Yeah.
Which player on the Loyola women's lacrosse team would you want to be on a long road trip with?
Georgia Latch, 100%. I think anyone once you meet her, she's awesome. Yeah, she's great.
What's been the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Oh, I just with two of my teammates, we just started watching the Eight Passengers uh documentary about the YouTube family. So far, I think that's been the most interesting kind of eerie and sad and psychotic, but very interesting. Definitely interesting.
Speaking of TV shows, what is one show you can binge watch all day?
Mm, I would say Gossip Girl.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I've only seen one episode, so I feel like I don't know if it's made for me, but I feel like maybe I could watch more episodes than that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not made for everyone and it gets a little bit redundant and repetitive, but yeah, I think it's so funny. It's definitely a binge worthy show.
Now, last non-lacrosse question is, what is one place you would love to travel to soon?
Hmm. Um, I would say um Singapore.
Hmm. Heard it's
Yeah.
really clean there. That's the only thing I know about it.
I want to know if it's true. I want to know if it's really like all clean and like everyone says. Yeah, there's gotta be something about it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if this is true, but apparently it's like illegal to like chew gum in Singapore.
I heard that. And if
So
you do,
that might
get
be one
fined.
reason why it's super clean.
Yeah. I and like like people don't litter. I've heard about the gum thing and I like if you get caught, you will get fined or you'll get like some people I think like arrested in certain areas.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean it would make sense if you can't chew gum, it's probably so clean.
Yeah. Probably a lot of Altoids or something like that. So you can still make sure your breath still smells good. So
Yeah, that's funny.
well, let's get back to a couple of cross questions now before we end this interview. I guess the last one I really want to ask you was what advice would you give younger lacrosse players who are listening to this podcast on what advice you would give them on what it takes to be a college lacrosse player like yourself?
I think there's so many kind of so many voices out there with different stories about how they got recruited, how they started playing lacrosse. And I think just kind of, yes, listen to them and kind of figure out what like different people are going through, but also know like your own journey is your own. Like no one else could have, if anyone would have told me I would have gone to a school freshman year and then had a great time, but then decided to transfer, I would be like, whoa, like that's crazy. But here I am. And I think just kind of being going on your own journey and kind of figuring out what works for you, what doesn't, but then also leaning into the people that are going to support you through it. Like there's people that you'll meet throughout the lacrosse community, which is an awesome community, and it's such a small world. Like you know people that know people that know people who like I don't know that you meet like on just on like what are the odds coincidence. So I think going on your journey and really valuing the people that you meet throughout it and then um embracing like it's your journey is going to be your own and no one can tell you or change it, just like embrace it all and then trust that you'll end up where you're meant to be no matter how many obstacles or things that you experience before you get there. So
Now, Lauren, do you have any shout outs you want to give to your family members, teammates, friends, family, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Yeah, I don't thank them enough, but shout out to my family. If they're listening to this, my mom and dad are my rocks. They are super supportive. They push me to be the best, but they also allow it to be my decision, my journey, and just super supportive of that all. And then my brother, he wouldn't have played the cross if it wasn't for him. And then just like a lot of things, just having someone that is on in your corner, but is also not necessarily your parents because their generation is so different from ours. And having his support, and honestly being my built-in best friend. And then huge shout out to my friends. I think I like everyone that I've met throughout life and the mentors and the family members and just like the support system I have. Big shout out to them and big shout out to my team here at Loyola as we go into a busy, I mean, we call it March Madness. It's going to be busy, but yeah, shout out to them and awesome. And I love them. And who we should bring on the podcast next. I think. Georgia Latch would be an awesome person. She has such an awesome story and is from such a different place and different culture, but to be an international student and really um, take it all in of being in a different country and playing at such a high level. Um, yeah, I think she's such a role model and such an awesome person with such great energy. So yeah, I would shout out her and have bring her on to this podcast. I think she'd have a blast.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for taking time of your day and coming on the podcast and talking with us. We really enjoyed the conversation, and obviously, we wish you all the best for Wednesday and Saturday's game. I think by the time this is out, Wednesday's game will already be done, so Saturday's game. But thank you so much for coming on, Lauren. I really enjoyed talking with you today.
Thanks so much.